The morning sunlight slanted through the blinds, striping the office in gold and shadow. Ava Sinclair sipped her coffee, eyes scanning the latest case file, when her phone buzzed with a message from a stranger. She almost ignored it. After all, most of their clients came through referrals, not Facebook. But something about the sender's urgency made her pause. "Do you know Vivian Sinclair?" The name hit her like a slap. The woman who'd stolen her father, her childhood, and any hope of a normal family. Ava's hand trembled as she typed back, unaware that her life was about to change forever. Across the room, Maya Carter was hunched over her laptop, muttering about the latest cheating spouse they'd been hired to tail. "If I have to watch one more grown man cry in a parking lot, I'm charging double," she said, not looking up. Ava forced a laugh, but her mind was elsewhere. She typed a cautious reply. "Yes. Why?" The response came almost instantly. "My name's Tommy Brooks. I'm a fireman. I saw something last night I think you need to know about." Ava's heart thudded. She glanced at Maya, who was now watching her with raised eyebrows. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Maya said. "Maybe I have," Ava murmured, reading the next message. "I caught Vivian with a man last night. Not your dad. I have photos. I can send them." Ava's breath caught. For a moment, she was 12 again, standing in the foyer of her father's house, suitcase in hand, as Vivian's cold eyes swept over her. "Boarding school will be good for you, Ava. You'll make friends, learn discipline." Her father had stood behind Vivian, silent, his hands twisting together. She shook off the memory and showed Maya the messages. Maya's eyes widened. "Is this for real?" "I think so," Ava said, her voice barely above a whisper. Maya grinned, a spark of mischief lighting her face. "Well, Karma's a patient lady, huh?" Ava managed a weak smile. "Let's see the photos first." A minute later, Tommy sent them. Grainy, taken at night, but unmistakable. Vivian, her hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, laughing with a man Ava didn't recognize. The two stood close beside a pair of cars on a deserted country road, their bodies angled toward each other in a way that left little doubt. Ava's hands shook as she scrolled through the images. Maya leaned over her shoulder, whistling low. "That's her, all right. Your stepmom's got a secret life." Ava stared at the screen, a storm of emotions churning inside her. Anger, vindication, a strange, hollow ache. For years, she'd watched Vivian manipulate her father, push her out of the family, and play the perfect wife in public. Now, fate had handed her the kind of evidence she and Maya usually dug up for strangers. Tommy's next message was longer. "I'm sorry to drop this on you. My wife cheated on me a few months back. I know how it feels. I couldn't just drive away and pretend I hadn't seen anything. I ran the plates, found your name. I hope this helps." Ava blinked back tears. She'd spent her adult life exposing secrets, but this was different. This was personal. Maya squeezed her shoulder. "You okay?" Ava nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, I never thought I'd see the day." Maya's voice softened. "What do you want to do?" Ava stared at the photos, her mind racing. She could call her father right now, send him the evidence, watch Vivian's world crumble. But something held her back. Years of disappointment, of hoping for a relationship with her father that never quite materialized, made her cautious. "Let's wait," she said finally. "We need to be smart about this. If Vivian's as slippery as I remember, she'll fight back. We need more than a few photos." Maya nodded, her PI instincts kicking in. "We'll build a case, like we always do." Ava managed a shaky laugh. "Except this time, it's my family." Maya grinned. All the more reason to do it right. They spent the next hour planning. Maya pulled up Vivian's social media, noting her usual haunts and routines. Ava called Detective Sam Ortiz, a friend on the local force, to ask about the legalities of gathering evidence on a family member. Sam, ever discreet, promised to look the other way as long as they stayed within the law. As they worked, Ava's phone buzzed again. This time, it was her father. "Hey, kiddo. Just checking in. Hope you're well." Ava stared at the message, her throat tight. For years, their conversations had been stilted, awkward. Richard Sinclair was a good man, but he'd never known how to stand up to Vivian. He'd let her send Ava away, let her become a stranger in her own home. Ava typed back, her fingers trembling. I'm good, Dad. Can we have lunch soon? There's something I want to talk to you about. She hit send before she could change her mind. Maya watched her, eyes gentle. You sure you're ready for this? Ava nodded. I have to be. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Maya set up surveillance routes, mapping out Vivian's favorite bike trails and coffee shops. Ava dug through old case files, looking for patterns, times Vivian had been out riding for hours, unexplained absences, odd charges on Richard's credit card. By evening, they had a plan. They'd follow Vivian for a week, document her movements, and gather enough evidence to make their case airtight. Then, and only then, would they confront Richard. As the sun set, Ava sat on the office couch, exhausted. Maya handed her a glass of wine and flopped down beside her. Remember that time we caught the mayor's wife with her tennis coach? Maya said, grinning. Ava laughed, the tension easing for a moment. She tried to bribe us with a year's supply of cupcakes. Maya raised her glass. To justice, and to finally getting yours. Ava clinked her glass, her smile bittersweet. To justice. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, Ava couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing on the edge of something huge. For years, she'd accepted her place on the outside, watching her father's life from a distance. Now, she had a chance to change everything. She just hoped she was ready for what came next. The last ride continued. The next morning, Ava woke before dawn, her mind already racing. She dreamed of her father's house, of the echoing hallways, the smell of Vivian's perfume, the way her father's eyes always seemed to slide away from hers. She shook off the memory and dressed quickly, pulling on jeans and a dark hoodie. Today, she wasn't a daughter. She was a private investigator, and she had a job to do. Maya was already in the office, sipping coffee, and scrolling through Vivian's social media. She posted a sunrise selfie at the lake trail last week, Maya said, tapping her screen. Caption, early bird gets the worm. Ava snorted, or the married man. Maya grinned. Ready to go fishing? They loaded their gear, cameras, telephoto lenses, a battered old sedan with tinted windows, and headed out. The air was crisp, the city just waking up. Ava felt a familiar thrill settle in her chest. She tailed dozens of cheating spouses, but this time, every detail mattered. They parked near the trailhead, hidden behind a row of overgrown hedges. Vivian's car, a silver SUV, was already there. Ava checked her watch. She's early. Maya adjusted her camera. She's eager. They watched as Vivian emerged from the trees, helmet in hand, her bike propped against the car. She glanced around, then pulled out her phone and typed a message. A few minutes later, a dark blue sedan pulled up. The driver, a tall man in cycling gear, got out, grinning as he approached Vivian. They exchanged a quick hug, then wheeled their bikes onto the trail, side by side. Ava snapped photos, her hand steady. She felt a strange detachment, as if she were watching a scene from someone else's life. But when the man reached over and brushed a strand of hair from Vivian's face, something inside her twisted. They're not even trying to hide it, Maya murmured, snapping her own shots. They never do, Ava said quietly. They followed at a distance, keeping to the shadows. The trail wound through the woods, sunlight dappling the path. Vivian and her companion rode ahead, laughing, their voices carrying on the breeze. At a secluded bend, they stopped, leaning their bikes against a tree. The man pulled Vivian close, kissing her deeply. Ava's breath caught. She'd seen this scene 100 times, husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends, all thinking they were safe, that no one was watching. But this time it was her family, her father's life, her own stolen childhood. She took the photos anyway. After a few minutes, Vivian and the man rode off, disappearing down the trail. Ava and Maya returned to the car, reviewing the images. Clear as day, Maya said, scrolling through the shots. You want to keep going? Ava nodded. We need a pattern. One day isn't enough. Over the next 3 days, they followed Vivian everywhere. Each morning, she left the house in her cycling gear, texting as she drove. Each time, she met the same man, sometimes at the trail, sometimes at a coffee shop, once at a cheap motel on the edge of town. The routine was always the same. A quick scan of the parking lot, a lingering embrace, stolen kisses behind tinted windows. Ava documented everything. She felt numb, her anger cooling into something sharper, more focused. She thought of her father, sitting alone in the big house, trusting Vivian, never suspecting. She thought of herself, 12 years old and unwanted, shipped off to boarding school so Vivian could play happy family with her own children. On the third night, Ava and Maya sat in the car outside the motel, watching as Vivian and her lover emerged, laughing, their arms around each other. Ava snapped the final photos, her jaw clenched. "That's enough," she said. "We have what we need." Maya nodded, her expression serious. "You ready to talk to your dad?" Ava hesitated. She'd imagined this moment for years, confronting Vivian, exposing her lies, finally making her father see the truth. But now that it was here, she felt only exhaustion. "I have to be," she said. They drove home in silence, the weight of the evidence heavy between them. Ava spent the night organizing the photos, printing them out, arranging them in a neat, damning sequence. She wrote a timeline, noting every meeting, every lie, every betrayal. The next morning, she called her father. "Dad, can we have lunch today? There's something important I need to show you." Richard's voice was warm, if a little wary. "Of course, Ava. I'll meet you at the diner at noon." Ava hung up, her hands shaking. Maya squeezed her shoulder. "You're doing the right thing." Ava nodded, but her stomach was in knots. She wasn't sure if she was about to save her father or break his heart. At noon, she and Maya arrived at the diner. Richard was already there, sitting in a corner booth, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. He looked older than Ava remembered, his hair grayer, his eyes tired. He smiled when he saw her. "Ava, Maya, good to see you both." Ava slid into the booth, her heart pounding. She glanced at Maya, who gave her a reassuring nod. "Dad," Ava began, her voice trembling, "there's something you need to see." She slid the manila envelope across the table. Richard frowned, opening it. He pulled out the photos, flipping through them in silence. With each image, his face grew paler. When he reached the last one, the one of Vivian and her lover outside the motel, he let out a shaky breath. For a long moment, no one spoke. The clatter of dishes and the low hum of conversation filled the silence. Finally, Richard looked up, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "How long?" Ava swallowed. "At least a week. But I think it's been going on much longer." Richard nodded, his shoulders slumping. "I always wondered. She was always gone, always had an excuse. I didn't want to believe it." Ava reached across the table, taking his hand. "You don't have to do this alone, Dad. We'll help you. Whatever you need." Richard squeezed her hand, his grip surprisingly strong. "Thank you, Ava. I'm sorry for everything. For letting her push you away. For not seeing what was right in front of me." Ava blinked back tears. "It's not your fault. She's been lying to all of us." Maya cleared her throat. "We can get more evidence if you want. Enough to make sure she can't fight you in court." Richard nodded, a new resolve hardening his features. "Let's do it. I want out. I want my family back." Ava smiled, hope blooming in her chest for the first time in years. "We'll make sure she never hurts us again." As they left the diner, Ava felt lighter, as if a weight she'd carried for years had finally begun to lift. She glanced at Maya, who grinned and bumped her shoulder. "Ready for the fun part?" Maya asked. Ava grinned back, her eyes shining. "Let's finish this." He plan came together quickly. Richard, once so passive, now moved with a quiet determination that surprised Ava. He called his lawyer, explained the situation, and asked what he'd need to make a clean break. The answer was simple: more proof, and a witness to the confrontation if possible. Maya, ever the strategist, suggested they wait until Vivian returned from her upcoming business trip. "She'll be tired, off guard. And if we pack her things while she's gone, she can't twist the story or hide anything." Richard agreed, his voice steady. "I want her gone. I want my kids to know the truth." Ava spent the next 2 days gathering every scrap of evidence. She and Maya followed Vivian one last time, documenting her routine with the same man. This time, catching them at a quiet restaurant, their hands entwined across the table. The photos were clear, the timestamps irrefutable. On the morning of Vivian's return, Ava and Maya arrived at the house early. The place felt different, quieter, as if it were holding its breath. Richard met them at the door, his face drawn but resolute. "Are you sure about this?" Ava asked, searching his eyes for doubt. Richard nodded. "I've been sure for a long time. I just needed the truth." They worked quickly, boxing up Vivian's clothes, her shoes, her endless collection of cycling gear. Maya labeled each box with brisk efficiency, her PI instincts keeping her focused. Ava moved through the house in a daze, memories surfacing with every item she packed. The Christmases spent in silence, the birthdays missed, the years lost. By noon, the house was stripped of Vivian's presence. Her things were stacked neatly in the garage, ready to be loaded into a moving truck. Richard sat at the kitchen table, the manila envelope in front of him, his hands folded tightly. Ava checked her phone. She just landed. She'll be here in an hour. Maya glanced at Richard. "You want me to stay?" He nodded. "Please. I want a witness." They waited in silence, the tension thick. Ava paced the living room, her nerves jangling. She thought of her half-siblings, Eli and Grace, away at a friend's house for the weekend. She wondered what they'd think, what they'd remember. The sound of tires on gravel snapped her back to the present. Vivian's SUV pulled into the driveway, the engine cutting off with a final, decisive click. For a moment, no one moved. Then the front door opened and Vivian swept in, her hair perfectly styled, her business suit immaculate. She stopped short when she saw the boxes, her eyes narrowing. "What's going on?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Richard stood, the envelope in his hand. "We need to talk, Vivian." Vivian's gaze flicked to Ava, then to Maya. Her lips curled in a sneer. "What is this? Some kind of intervention?" Ava met her eyes, calm and steady. "You could call it that." Vivian's eyes darted to the boxes, then back to Richard. "You're overreacting. Whatever she's told you." Richard cut her off, his voice firmer than Ava had ever heard. "I know everything, Vivian. I know about the man you've been seeing. I know about the motel, the restaurant, the lies. I have proof." He slid the envelope across the table. Vivian stared at it, her face pale. She snatched it up, flipping through the photos. For a moment, she was silent. Then she exploded. "You little bitch," she screamed, rounding on Ava. "You've been spying on me? You think you can just waltz back in here and ruin my life?" Ava didn't flinch. "You ruined your own life, Vivian. I just made sure you couldn't hide it anymore." Vivian's voice rose to a shriek. "How could you do this to me? After everything I've done for this family?" Richard stepped between them, his voice cold. "You did nothing for this family but tear it apart. I want you out, Vivian. Today." Vivian's eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally and finding none. She looked at Maya, who simply raised an eyebrow unimpressed. Vivian's shoulders slumped. For the first time, she looked small, defeated. "Fine," she spat. "You want me gone? I'll go. But you'll regret this, Richard. You'll all regret it." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The house shook with the force of it, but Ava felt only relief. Richard sank into a chair, his hands trembling. Ava knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. For a long moment, they stayed like that, the silence heavy with everything that had been lost, and everything that might still be found. Maya cleared her throat, breaking the spell. "I'll call the movers. Make sure she doesn't try anything." Ava smiled, tears prickling her eyes. "Thank you, Maya, for everything." Maya grinned. "Hey, what are friends for?" As Vivian's SUV roared out of the driveway, Ava felt a weight lift from her chest. For the first time in years, the house felt like home. The house was quiet after Vivian left, eerily so. For years, her presence had filled every room, her voice echoing down the halls, her rules shaping every moment. Now, there was only the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant chirp of birds outside. Richard sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty doorway. His hands were still, but his eyes were red-rimmed, lost in thought. Ava sat across from him, unsure what to say. She'd imagined this moment so many times, but now that it was here, the victory felt hollow. Maya busied herself in the background, making coffee, tidying up the last of the paperwork. She gave Ava a reassuring nod, then slipped out to the porch to give them space. Richard finally spoke, his voice rough. I should have seen it. All those years, I just let her do whatever she wanted. I thought I was keeping the peace. Ava reached across the table, taking his hand. You did what you thought was best, Dad. She was good at hiding things, at making people doubt themselves. He squeezed her hand, his grip trembling. I let her send you away. I let her turn me against you. I'm so sorry, Ava. Ava blinked back tears. I missed you, Dad. I missed having a family. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. We can fix that, if you'll let me try. Ava nodded, a small smile breaking through. I'd like that. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of the past slowly lifting. Outside, Maya chatted with the movers, making sure Vivian's things were loaded up without incident. When she came back in, she found Richard and Ava laughing softly over an old family photo album, the tension finally easing. Later that afternoon, Eli and Grace came home. They stopped short in the doorway, confusion flickering across their faces as they saw the empty spaces where Vivian's things had been. Ava knelt down, her voice gentle. Hey guys, there's something we need to talk about. Richard explained as simply as he could, his voice steady but kind. Your mom is going to be living somewhere else for a while. She made some choices that hurt our family and we need some time to heal. Eli, the older of the two, looked at Ava, his eyes wary. Is it because of you? Ava shook her head. No, Eli. It's because of things your mom did. But I'm here to help if you want me to. Grace, younger and more sensitive, burst into tears. Ava hugged her, holding her close, whispering soothing words. Richard knelt beside them, wrapping his arms around both children. We're still a family, he said softly. We'll get through this together. The days that followed were hard. Vivian tried to call, to plead her case, but Richard refused to answer. The kids struggled with the change, sometimes lashing out, sometimes withdrawing. Ava stayed, helping where she could, making dinner, helping with homework, listening when Eli needed to talk, or Grace needed to cry. Maya checked in every day, bringing groceries, offering advice, and making sure Ava took care of herself. You're not just a PI anymore, she teased one evening. You're a big sister. And a daughter. Ava smiled, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. One evening, as the sun set and the house settled into a peaceful quiet, Richard found Ava on the porch, staring out at the yard. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion, for not giving up on me, for giving us another chance. Ava leaned her head on his shoulder, the old hurts finally starting to fade. We're family, Dad. That's what matters. They sat together in the fading light, the past behind them, the future uncertain but theirs to shape. Inside, Eli and Grace played a board game, their laughter drifting through the open window. Maya texted from the office, a simple message that made Ava smile. Justice served. Family restored. Ava looked at her father, at the home she'd almost lost, and knew that sometimes the hardest truths were the ones that set you free. Years passed. The scars of Vivian's betrayal faded, replaced by new memories, new traditions, and a stronger bond than Ava had ever thought possible. Richard thrived. He took up gardening, filling the yard with flowers and vegetables. He started volunteering at a local charity, helping families in need. He even started dating again, finding a kind, gentle woman who appreciated his quiet strength. Eli and Grace grew into confident, compassionate young adults. Eli went to college, studying engineering. Grace pursued her passion for art, enrolling in a prestigious design school. They both stayed close to Ava and Richard, grateful for the love and stability they'd found. As for Ava, she found a new sense of purpose. She and Maya continued to run their PI firm, but their focus shifted. They still took on infidelity cases, but they also started working with families in crisis, helping them navigate difficult situations with empathy and understanding. We've been there, Ava would say to her clients, her voice steady. We know what it's like to feel lost and broken, but we also know that healing is possible. One day, a young woman came to their office, her eyes swollen with tears. Her husband had been cheating on her, and she didn't know what to do. Ava listened patiently, offering words of comfort and advice. I don't know if I can ever trust him again, the woman said, her voice trembling. Ava nodded. Trust is hard to rebuild, but it's not impossible. You have to decide if he's worth fighting for. And if you are, the woman looked at Ava, her eyes searching. How did you do it? How did you get through it? Ava smiled, thinking of her father, of Eli and Grace, of the home she'd almost lost. I had help, she said, and I learned that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones you fight for family. Later that evening, Ava and Maya sat in their office, reviewing the case. Maya leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful expression on her face. You know, she said, I used to think this job was all about catching bad guys, exposing secrets, getting revenge. Ava nodded. Me too. Maya smiled. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's about helping people find their way back to themselves. It's about giving them the tools to rebuild their lives. Ava looked around the office, at the files stacked neatly on the shelves, at the photos of happy families on the bulletin board. She thought of her father, tending his garden, of Eli and Grace, pursuing their dreams. It's about hope, she said softly. It's about showing people that even after the worst betrayals, there's still a chance for a new beginning. Maya raised her glass, her eyes shining. To new beginnings. Ava clinked her glass, her heart full. To family, and to justice, in all its forms. Outside, the city lights twinkled, a million stories unfolding in the darkness. Ava knew that their work was far from over, but she also knew that they were making a difference, one family at a time. And as she looked out at the night, she felt a sense of peace she'd never known before. The last ride had been long and difficult, but it had brought her home. Please like and subscribe to support me. I've been deeply affected by infidelity, and your support means the world to me. Watch Exposed and Broken to help me rebuild my life, maybe even buy a house one day.